Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies. This is actually episode 51. I can't believe I've been doing this for technically over a year now, but yeah, it's been almost a year of news stories on a weekly basis. So if you enjoy this and have been watching for a while, thank you. You know what to do. It's social media. Hit the like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff. Follow me on the socials. I'll have those in the link below. And tell your friends, because this is why I do it, for the normies who aren't plugged into news on a daily basis like some psychos like me. Okay, so with that being stated, let's get into the news. So Canada is apparently trying to cut ties with the United States, primarily with military stuff, which is hilarious because the entire Canadian military has less than 50,000 enlisted people total, not including, reservists, obviously. But just a quick search on Brave browser, because I don't want to use Google I try to not use Google as much as possible. As of 2024, the entire U.S. Army National Guard had 325,000 enlisted members. That's not including the Air National Guard. So this is very laughable for Canada to do something like this. Maybe if they weren't shitty neighbors to the north, then we could have a little bit more diplomatic things going on here. But Canada, you brought this on yourself. French politician and political frontrunner Marine Le Pen was sentenced to jail for embezzling EU funds and has been barred for several years from running for public office. Sound familiar? This definitely sounds like another Trump type situation in the mix, in the making. It's early on Saturday. My brain ain't working all the way. But yeah, it definitely seems like they have a Trump-like situation on their hands. So I apologize for the background noise. Somebody probably has a nosebleed down the road. Yeah, so this is going to get interesting because the French, they don't like, it's from my understanding, it's weird. They take to the streets when the government wants to raise the age of retirement by like 6 months, and they're like, no, not on my watch, and then they start burning shit down. So we'll see how this goes. Things may get interesting over there. Things are still interesting here in the homeland. The Trump administration has deported more violent gang members belonging to groups like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, some of which are convicted child rapists. So that's awesome, but I'll get into that more in a minute. One man who was deported from Maryland has been reported by corporate media as, quote, a father of two, end quote, in an attempt to pull on people's heartstrings, with some media outlets outright lying about his gang involvement. As Tom Homan has said, if families don't want to be separated because of breaking the law, then they can all just be sent back to their home countries altogether. And as he pointed out in the past as well, if a father here in the United States is, arrested for DUI, they don't send the whole family to jail with him. So actions have consequences. These are the consequences of your actions. So I'm glad that more violent gang members are being removed from the country, but in my opinion, child rapists should just be executed and don't even waste the time and money and resources on getting them out of here. And I don't care if you're an American citizen and have lived here, born and raised here since 1975 or whatever. If you're convicted of child rape, then you should just be shot in the face. You can argue with me if you want. I will disagree, and you will not change my mind on that one. Anyway, moving on. The big story that people are talking about is tariffs. April 2nd was Liberation Day, according to President Trump, as he signed tariffs on essentially every country across the globe that is importing goods into America, including imported cars. Because of this, the stock market took a big hit the same day. So if you have a 401k or, you just buy and sell stocks, you've definitely been keeping an eye on this. It was interesting that many countries have scrambled to make changes to trade agreements with America because of these tariffs. But other countries also have like tried to double down and play tough. So interesting times we're living in. In true shitbag fashion, the Senate tried to pass a bill, they did pass a bill that would essentially block some of Trump's tariffs with mostly Democrat support. No surprise there. But also several Republicans, such as good old Cocaine Mitch, which I thought he was retiring. I'm surprised he's even still alive at this point. And even Rand Paul came out against these. So that I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. I'm just trying to bring you the news. So that I find that interesting that Rand Paul. Well, no, not really, because he's a libertarian and is against taxes all over. So anyway, the bill. This doesn't mean this bill is immediately going into effect. Okay, go back to government class. The bill has to go through both chambers of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives, and then be signed by the president to then be put into effect. The House is not going to pass this, and obviously Donald Trump will not sign something like this, which would then kick it back to the chambers of Congress, and then they could overturn the veto and all that stuff. But this is not going to happen, and this, at the end of the day, this was merely a grandstanding stunt for Democrats to virtue signal to voters, like, we're standing up against this fascist tyrant, blah, 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 blah. So, that's that. Excuse me while I take a sip of coffee. Thank you to the Drinking Bros podcast for this amazing tumbler that says defund politicians on it. I'm not affiliated with them other than I like the show and like the merch. Okay, so last thing about tariffs. China has placed a 34% tariff on U.S. goods, which hit the stock market pretty hard as well. However, Trump is holding firm to these tariffs, which is no shock if you pay attention to anything Trump says, because in his eyes, and I agree with this, China is our biggest opponent in the global economic stage. As I stated before, this is definitely not great for people with retirement packages like 401ks, but hopefully as things go forward, the stock market can make a correction. And there's a little bit of hope in this because, as I've stated before on this channel, many companies have either vowed or have already made steps in investing here in the U.S., such as bringing car manufacturing back to America. You're welcome, UAW folks. Or things like semiconductors and computer chips. I think here in Ohio, there's a lot of stuff going on with that. I think like IBM is trying to set up some factories and stuff. So that ultimately that is the goal, is to get these companies to start making stuff here to boost our economy, get our people employed in meaningful jobs to then flourish the economy. This is exactly why we did so well after World War II, because we were making a ton of, weapons and military vehicles and military supplies during the war. Then it had to shift after the war to a more civilian market. We still had the infrastructure. We were still making stuff. So definitely need to bring that back. I didn't put this in my notes, but this did come up on some shows I was listening to. Nike was originally making stuff in China, or not originally, but was making shoes and stuff in China, and then China got hit with tariffs, so then they moved them to Vietnam, and then Vietnam got hit with those tariffs, so Nike's still got to pay taxes on that stuff now. Or you can bring it back to America and not pay as high taxes like that, which is ultimately the end goal. If anybody's a fan of Jocko Willink and the Jocko podcast and all the stuff they do, they actually set up manufacturing plants in New England to make shoes and jeans and stuff like that, because American jobs are worth it. So, again, I'm not affiliated with them. They're not paying me to say this, just stuff that I'm remembering here. If you want to support American-made goods, buy stuff from the Jocko affiliated brands. I think it's Origin Maine is the one that makes the jeans and jiu-jitsu equipment and stuff like that. So, okay, moving on. Apparently Gavin Newsom, the governor of arguably the worst state in the country, California, has instructed California state employees who deal with like statewide economics to seek out their own international trade deals, which, to my knowledge, is against federal law. So hopefully this gets brought up in court and is stricken down, since that's how the left likes to play nowadays. We'll see how that goes. Speaking of courts, the DOJ is looking to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione, who is alleged to be the murderer of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. I'm sure everybody here remembers that, so not going to go into a lot of details on that, but we'll see what happens there as well. The mayor of Seattle has recently announced that the city took in $47 million less in payroll taxes than the year before, a 10% drop year over year. Why did this happen? Well, due to large companies packing up shop and leaving for various reasons, probably due to high crime rates and losses in business. No shocker when, companies start seeing losses due to a lot of theft in their stores. They're going to say, hey, it's not worth us being in this location. We're going to pack up and go. So when you steal in large quantities or in large number, high dollar items, less than $1,000 or whatever, companies are going to go bye-bye. So Democrats, you brought this on yourself. This is interesting. A GOP office in New Mexico was set on fire, and leftist graffiti was found nearby that said, quote, "ICE equals KKK," end quote. Interesting how this happened in New Mexico, a border state where, I'm sure they've seen a large influx of illegal immigration over the last 4 years. So hopefully whoever did this is found and is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, as this is not just a random... There's no way this is a random act of arson, okay? There's not a chance. But on that note, Elon Musk says that those who are funding these left-wing protests should be arrested. Let me say that again. The ones who are funding and organizing these things should be arrested, is what Elon Musk said. And basically, as he stated, you can arrest the individuals that are setting fires and spray painting buildings, but more will pop up. So in this regard, you have to hit this figurative Leviathan at the source. The story of the Leviathan, you chop off one head, there's more that pop up, so you have to go to the body and take it out there. Not calling for any physical violence on anybody, not saying that at all, but whoever is organizing and funding these people to do radical leftist things, those people need to be prosecuted as well. If you want to stand out in front of a Tesla dealership with signs and chant your stupid little slogans and everything stays peaceful, go ahead. I don't agree with your message, but I support your right to protest peacefully. But when you're organizing literal riots, that's where I draw the line. Okay, that's enough of that. Finally, anyone who's paid attention for the last several years to anything going on will hear this and be like, oh, we're really talking about this again? But again, I call this news for normies because I try to get this to the average everyday person. FBI chat logs have been released that reveal internal knowledge from the Bureau that the Hunter Biden laptop story was in fact real when it was first talked about. If you don't remember, this was in the lead up to the 2020 election, and I'll get into that in a minute. Apparently, the FBI imposed a gag order on an employee who was trying to report about this story on Twitter. Why is this important? Because after the 2020 election, polls showed that if more people knew about the Hunter Biden laptop story, which had incriminating evidence against Hunter and Joe about shady international dealings, votes would have swung up to 11% towards Trump in the 2020 election, potentially granting him the victory at that time. So this is just one more reason why I will continually rag on the FBI and always call for the abolishment of it, because it is an evil organization that has its own interest at heart and not ours. Okay? They intentionally silenced this story to make sure that Joe Biden would win. So, that's all I've got for this week. Like I said, if you have some normies in your life, share this with them, because this is why I do it. I have references below for a couple of these stories you can check out, just so you know I'm not full of shit. And I will leave all of my social media outlets down in the comment below as well if you want to go follow me on there. So, with that being said, I hope you all take care, especially if you're seeing crazy weather out there, and I will see you all next time.